Mr. Anderson?
It is 7:30, and I'm going to call this meeting to order. This meeting of the Denville Township Board of Education is being held in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act. Notice of this meeting was provided to the Daily Record and to the Star Ledger of Morris County, has been delivered to the Township Clerk, and has been posted on the bulletin board of the Board of Education office and at each of the school buildings in the district. Roll call, please.
Mr. Anderson?
Here.
Mrs. Sedalis?
Here.
Dr. Aruna Detassen? Dr. Moore?
Here.
Mr. Kim?
Here.
Mr. Cass?
Here.
Mr. Capello?
Dr. Aruna Hassan, as well as Mr. Capello, send their apologies. They are both out of town for work and will not be here this evening. We do not have a need for executive session, so if everybody can please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. It's one of the most exciting meetings of the year when we get a chance to present our Persons of the Year award. And before we do that, I will just make a mention that at our next meeting, which is June 12th, we will also be doing our Valley View Athletic County Championships. So those athletes will be here. So if you're available, we'd love to have you come back. But without any further ado, I'll turn it over to Dr. Forte to begin the Persons of the Year presentations.
Okay, thank you. This is the sixth year we've been doing this. We have one more shot, and then we're going to have to get a new plaque, so this is good. It's been going on for a while. It's grown a little bit. It's been something that I think is important for our community, and we really don't have a lot of criteria. It's just who has gone above and beyond for the students of the pre-K-8 Denville schools. That's the whole nominations, and right now we get to present a winner. So the first one we'll start with our Community Member of the Year. Can I get Mr. Anderson to come on up? Anybody here from the PTAs? You want to come up too? No, it's up to you.
Being nominated as well as being awarded this award. I am surrounded by individuals behind me as well as individuals who are in this room, I'm sure, that contribute in many different ways to the town. And I think we all have one common theme. I think we love the town, and we definitely love the children and are inspired by it. I've been doing track for about 6 or 7 years now. And I'm truly inspired by the children that are part of the track program, the effort that they put into it, and just to see the joy and the accomplishments and the joy from the accomplishments that they have throughout the season. So I want to thank the committee, Dr. Forte, the administration, the parents who have nominated me, as well as my family who are here today. So thank you. As well as the PTA. Thank you. Got it. Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to do the Staff Member of the Year. This award is going to be accompanied by a $200 Mega Sushi gift card, which is the person's place of choice in town. This has been something like after COVID, we decided that the monetary reward would be something to do with the town too as well, like that supports local businesses. So that's why we do like in town. It used to be a TD Bank gift card, which was in town too, but I don't know. So I'd like to call up the Lakeview and Special Services Department to come on up and make the award. Mrs. Johnson and Mrs. Sardanopoli. And Mr. Scala.
Okay. I definitely think, going above and beyond for students is such a good descriptor for Mrs. Malini. She's just been an amazing teacher for our Stepping Stones preschool classroom, and just truly gets to know the individual students and really differentiates and individualizes her program for the kids. And so many of the students have made tremendous progress moving into less restrictive settings and just, making the expected progress that we would hope to see. And Mrs. Molina just really works tirelessly for these students, and we really appreciate having her here. I think it's been the past about 5 years now. So thank you so much, Mrs. Molini. Been an amazing contributor for our special ed students. Thank you.
And to piggyback off of that, of course, at Lakeview, we believe so strongly in educating the whole child, and Mrs. Molini does that above and beyond every single day, and she's a model of that for her pre-K team as well as for all of the staff at Lakeview. We ask everyone to give that extra 1%, and Mrs. Molini gives an extra 1,000. There's no stone she leaves unturned, and she makes sure to do everything she can for those kids and for all of us. This year, she also is the leader of our Heritage Committee and has done incredible things to help build our capacity to ensure that we make Lakeview the most well-rounded, meaningful place for our students to learn and grow. So, Mrs. Molini, it's an honor to be up here presenting you this award. Thank you for what you do and for all that you can contribute to Lakeview. Thanks so much. I'll hand her the Miga. You can hand her the... Well, there's a lot of them.
Congratulations.
Pretty good amount of sushi, right? $200? For the Student of the Year, same thing goes. It was somebody who goes above and beyond for the pre-K 8 students of Denville. And we have a young lady here with us, and our principal and guidance counselor are going to come up to speak about her contributions to the school. Oh, and Natalie we asked her what she wanted, so she has Starbucks, Wish, and Pliable. So that was good. Okay.
So our recipient for Student of the Year, leads others, not by her voice, but by her example. She's been an integral part of Builders Club since her 6th grade year, attending regular meetings because she wants to, and not because her friends do. She participates yearly in Girl Scouts and also volunteers within the town to help coach Munchkin soccer. In her Lake community, she volunteers her time at kids' parties, bringing magic to wide-eyed and excited children. Most recently, she hosted a blanket making class at our town library to benefit a local dog shelter and adoption. Her efforts and achievements do not end with community service. She strives for academic excellence in her classes as well, and always while exhibiting courtesy and respect for her teachers and peers. Her positive energy extends to her sports and activities. She's an incredibly talented singer and equally as fierce on the softball field, managing multiple teams at a time. Whether in the classroom, on the field, or stage, she gives it her all, and we're very proud of her. And are happy to see this year's Denville Student of the Year go to Natalie Gross.
Can we get her parents up here too? Family? Can you stay up here for a minute? I don't know if the other two award winners will get pictures of you. Mr. and Mrs. Gross, is Natalie okay for picture? Yeah. Can I get the other two winners to come up for a minute with your plaques? Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your support too. This is going to be a good picture of the three of you. Congratulations.
Thank you, you too.
You're going to take that? Yeah.
You too.
I don't want to be.
Natalie, move the pink thing. Yeah, there you go. Cool. Thank you, guys. And thank you again to our PTA, all of our everybody who had put in a nomination. Dr. Cullis sat on the committee with me as well, and also the Denville Education Foundation for funding this and for supporting it for the last 6 years. So, and thank you to our winners and their families. Amazing stuff going on in the schools. It's great when we get a chance to recognize it. So, thank you all.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I know many of you have other activities to go to or need to get ready for tomorrow, so do not feel like you need to stay, but you're welcome to stay if you'd like. We'll just take a couple-minute break if you'd like to leave. Okay, we'll get back to our agenda, and we'll move on to superintendent comments. Dr. Forte.
You know, Mr. Capello usually says, if you're ready, if you're not ready, we'll skip. But got to get used to Mike again.
We got to keep moving here,
He
Steve.
moves it. Okay, just happy about the Persons of the Year. I thought it was a great group, and thank you to the community for the support and for the nominations. June 12th, we will be doing our goal setting for 23-24 with Charlene Peterson. And don't forget, we have the graduation at the Board of Ed on June 16th for Valley View at Morris Knolls. We heard from a few board members. We're still waiting to hear from a couple more. If anybody is interested, please let me know this week so I can make arrangements for you. And next meeting on the 12th, we'll acknowledge our student athletes that won championships over the year, and as well as we had our first nominee from the public for an award to a fourth grader from Lakeview for some accomplishments in gymnastics. She unfortunately can't come on the 12th, so I asked her if she could come on the 26th, and she said yes. So we're going to do one on the 12th, one on the 26th, and that's my comments for today.
Thank you, Dr. Forte. Dr. Cullis, any assistant superintendent's comments?
Just an update, kindergarten registration is still open, although we have been doing our screenings at this point. We're sitting at 175 students, 101 at Lakeview and 74 at Riverview. So if you have not registered yet, please go onto our website and pre-register, and we will provide the information for you of what paperwork you need. This concludes the Assistant Superintendent's report.
Thank you, Dr. Cullis. Mrs. Gorelski, any business administrators' comments?
Just a reminder, October 23rd to the 26th is the Atlantic City October Convention. If you're interested in attending, please email me, let me know so we can register you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Gorelski. Steve, we should talk about, I'll bring it up to Dino and let him kind of decide. I think the 23rd is another board meeting on the Monday of school board. So discuss whether we want to keep it like we did last year or whether we want to move it. So I'll let him talk to you about it.
I'll put it on my comments for next week to discuss for next meeting.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to our first open public discussion item. Seeing no one in the meeting virtually and no one in the public, I am going to refrain from reading the paragraphs, but I'll open at 7:48 p.m. Seeing no one come forward, I am going to close our first open public comment section at 7:48 and move on to our agenda. Mr. Kim, would you mind moving us through old business?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Let me just get to that right page. All right, if there are no objections, I motion that we approve tonight number 3, old business. Letter A are the following reports from April 2023, the Treasurer of School Monies and the Board Secretary. Under B, Education Reports, the report of student enrollment for April, the report of Health Office, the report of Strategic Plan for the next 5 years, and HIB case BV 222310, as well as the minutes for the combined work and regular session and executive session for April 24th.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Kim and Mr. Cass. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Adelis,
Yes.
Dr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Kim,
Yes.
Mr. Cass.
Yes.
All right, we'll move on to personnel. Mr. Moore, or excuse me, Dr. Moore, would you please move us through personnel?
Sure. I'd like to move the following resolutions under personnel. Number 1A, we have retroactive pay for the strategic planning video creation. A teacher to conduct chorus for the spring concert. Leave replacement teacher. Technology support specialist. Instructional aid teacher, bus driver, lunch aid for 23-24, assistant principal stipend for school security specialists. I guess it's a stipend for move room. Do we do that?
Yeah, it's in their contract.
Interesting. Okay. So the stipend for moving rooms, school nurse, summer preparation, 2 school nurse summer preparations, school counselor for, to work on the social, emotional learning and character education initiatives for 2023 and 2024. School counselor, summer 2023 to prepare schedules for next year. Several teachers and a nurse for the kindergarten orientation. New student orientation, counselor and teacher, pre-K, kindergarten, and new student orientation, school counselor and school nurse, pre-K, kindergarten orientation, instructional aid, and 2 teachers, another teacher to work on the SEL and character education initiatives for the 23-24 school year. To complete an ESL screening, 2 nurses for the ESY DALA enrichment program over the summer, teacher for the summer DALA program, teacher for the ESY program in the summer, instructional aid for the ESY program, several instructional aids for that program, summer tutoring, the creation of the Riverview 5th grade yearbook, Heritage Celebration Committee, a teacher to provide the assistive technology workshop for CPAC Community Resource Fair coming up, teacher to conduct a reading assessment, teacher to provide additional reading instruction, teacher to assist with district-wide painting, nurse to work during the summer to input incoming kindergarten information in preparation for the next school year, custodian for summer help, principal cashing in 4 vacation days, custodian cashing in 5 vacation days, and retirement sick payout for the LDTC. Retroactive resignation of a instructional aide and resignation of a sub-teacher and retirement of a bus driver. And then number 2, 3, 4, and 5 are leave of absences. And number 6, the board is approving Jane O'Leary and Anna Gomez for gifted and talented students from MHRD who are focusing on French arts to work with Mrs. Zeman and her French classes during the remainder of the 22-23 school year. 7 is that we approve the master staff list for 23-24. Number 8 is that we approve the attached job description for the TSS coordinator. Number 9 is that we approve the attached memorandum of agreement with the Denville Administrators Association. Number 10 is a list of substitutes, and there is an addendum. Number 11 is that we approve the attached memorandum of agreement with the Denville Education Association.
Before I second, I was informed that there's a correction to letter L. Jessica Seidel, letter K, forgive me, Mariana Visuik. It should read not to exceed 15 hours instead of not to exceed 20 hours.
Thank you.
If Dr. Moore approves that change, then I will second.
Approved. Good. Thank you, Dr. Moore, and thank you, Mr. Kim. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, quick question. Number 6, can either Dr. Forte or Dr. Cullis say a little bit about that? It sounds like a good thing, but I'm not really sure what I'm voting on there. It's the gifted and talented French arts work.
So these are just student volunteers, and we have to approve any, whether a student intern from a college or from a high school. And they are excellent French speakers. They're actually going for the seal of biliteracy, and they went through our program. So they reached out to see if they could come and work with our French students. And so they're going to come down in their open periods and share some of their expertise.
Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Adelis,
Yes.
Dr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Kim,
Yes.
Mr. Cass.
Yes.
All right, if there are no objections, I'm going to move instruction and program under B, items 1 through 10.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Kim. Any questions, comments? I know I made the comment last time, but I'm still very happy to see that we are moving forward with the National Junior Honor Society for next year, so it's exciting. If there are no questions or comments, roll call, please.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Adelis,
Yes.
Dr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Kim,
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Mrs. Lidelis, would you mind moving us through policy revisions?
So I move to approve the following resolutions under policy revisions. Be it resolved that the board adopt the following policies and regulations at first reading or second reading adopted as indicated, and we're looking to abolish R9140, the Citizen Advisory Committee, and the second adoption of or the first adoption, sorry, first reading of a number of policy regulations as stated in the agenda.
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Idolis and Mr. Kim. Any questions, comments?
I just want to thank Dr. Forte and Dr. Cullis again for staying on top of all this. One of the things at the convention was hearing over and over again how messed up every other school is and how behind they are, and they spent countless opportunities to remind us to stay on top of it, and we never have to do that. They're just presented to us on a nice platter each time, and I really appreciate that, hearing the horror stories in other schools. So.
Thank you, I appreciate it. It's been a change, right? We started off, we had to do a lot of catch up to do, but we're now doing it like quarterly, unless something new comes up. So thank you.
Agreed, and thank you, Dr. Moore, for calling that out. I think we generally have few questions because they're laid out really well, and we understand what the changes are, or revisions, or the reason for any new or abolished policy. So appreciate all the work it's put in. Any other questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Idolis,
Yes.
Dr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Kim,
Yes.
Mr. Cass.
Yes.
All right, moving on to finance. Mr. Kim, would you mind moving us through finance?
Sure will. Under D, Finance, I motion that we approve numbers 1 through 4 as listed in the agenda. Number 1 is the list of checks for the amounts as listed in the table. Number 2 is the shared services agreement with the Township of Denville for the Class 3 officers for the next 2 school years. Number 3 are the out-of-district placements for the students in the bullet points under number 3. And finally, number 4, the schedule of monies to be received for the next school year.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Kim and Mr. Cass. Any questions, comments on finance?
Yeah, I just had one comment. I think it'd be good for clarification for me and maybe some other people that look at this agenda, after the meeting, is the placement with the definition of limitless after that. If you just give that some context for me.
It's an out-of-district placement, so it's the name of the school.
Name of the school?
The name of the program, yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
These are both ESY programs, so sometimes they're a little different than the normal, I don't want to say normal, the school year and the summer program sometimes are different.
And I believe that's a local Denville school or business. Is that correct? That's okay. I think it is. Yeah, I think it's, yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. Excellent. Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Idolis,
Yes.
Dr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Kim,
Yes.
Mr. Cass.
Yes.
All right, Mr. Cass, if you wouldn't mind, please move us through operations.
Be glad to. Under operations, we have item number 1, transportation, and that's for use of the district school buses to transport students from Learner Limited Academy at an hourly rate of $70 per hour on the following days. They're all June 19th, and then we have buses going from Morristown to the Land of Make-Believe, from Little Learner in Jefferson to the Land of Make-Believe, and from Little Learner right here in Denville to the Land of Make-Believe. Next item is 1.2, that the board approve the joint transportation agreement with the Educational Services Commission of Morris County for the 2023-2024 school year. And I'll roll in buildings and grounds too, if it's okay. Do them together. Item 2.1 under buildings and grounds is to approve the attached use of facility request from Learner Limited Academy, LLC, at no cost to Little Learner. 2.2 is to approve the EACM Corp., the lowest responsible bidder, in accordance with the district's bid document requirements and public school purchasing laws for the Lakeview HVAC upgrades at Lakeview Elementary School in the amount of $1,385,000, partially funded through the New Jersey Clean Energy Program. Item 2.3 is to approve the list of unbudgeted projects and the amounts as listed below for the various required maintenance work during the 2022, 20, and 23 school year, funded with the Maintenance Reserve Fund. They are the Valley View roof repair, replace flooring at the Valley View Art Room, replace the AC heat pump at the Valley View Art Room, replace tables and furniture at the Valley View Art Room, repair ductwork and roof repair at Riverview, install plumbing for faucet at Lakeview, repair or replace the fence at the bus garage, install pavers at Riverview, guide rail, and I point out that's another shared services that we do with the Township of Denville. We've done many of them over the years. And then we have pavement marking for the parking lot at DW. I'm not familiar with.
District-wide, I'm sorry, I did not have
District-wide,
that room.
okay. Repair boiler number 2 at Valley View and Riverview roof leak.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Cass and Mr. Kim. Any questions, comments?
I have a question about the pavers at Riverview. Where will these pavers be installed?
So all these projects are done. What Damaris is doing right now is reclassifying them as maintenance reserve to be able to free up some money in the budget. These are all items that were completed already. This particular job was to replace the blacktop in the back at Riverview in the what used to be called the Rock. You know, that playground with the courtyard in the back. So that the old playground that was there, it was an old blacktop surface. It's been replaced with this paver surface.
So what you're saying is that all of these are actually done already then?
Yeah, these are already done, like stuff that we did a while ago. She's just reclassifying them as maintenance reserve.
Perfect. Thank you.
And I know just like you guys referred that these projects are already done, but just a quick question for clarification. I know there's a few roof repairs, and I know we've had a couple here and there, but we also have the warranty, right? So these were either things that weren't covered or were like a deductible or something for the warranty we have for the roofs. Is that correct?
It's not deductible. What it is the roof warranties don't cover everything as long as, like, in other words, let's say the majority of the roof is covered 30 years. Well, the flashing might only be covered for some of that time. Or it also, in this particular case, there was some building movement, which is not covered by the warranty, but still needs to be addressed. So those are the reasons that you have some of this. The Valley View project, which I don't think he's on here, but it's going to be, is stuff that's not, the area is under warranty, but this particular item on there is not under warranty.
Thank you for clarifying. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Idellis,
Yes.
Dr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Kim,
Yes.
Mr. Cass.
Yes.
Oh, we actually have one more item that I don't, did we add in the addendum for personnel? Okay. Thank you. I did not catch that. Thank you very much. We'll move on to good of the cause. Committee reports, correspondence, discussion items. We could start with board meeting highlights. Steve, did you have any you were looking at? Obviously, the persons of the year would be one of them.
Persons of the year, and maybe an announcement that we're doing the awards next week for the athletics and also the goal setting.
Can we add in there the signed MOA? Do you think that's appropriate for the DEA? I think that's a big accomplishment.
Yeah, and I guess the class threes too. We could do both of
Yep.
that. Yep.
Okay. And along those lines for the MOA for DEA, I just want to publicly thank our negotiating committee as well as the DEA's negotiating committee. I think Dr. Moore mentioned kind of when you go down to school boards, you hear all these stories of other districts. Well, I would say there's a lot of districts out there that do not have such a good relationship between their Board of Education and their staff, particularly the union, and often results in expired contracts and all sorts of kind of negotiations that drag on for years and years. So I am really proud and excited and thankful to the committee, the negotiating committee, who worked so diligently to make sure we had a fair and equitable kind of negotiation, which is good for both our staff as well as the community. So I thank them very much for their hard work, and I'm excited to see that we've got an MOA in place, and hopefully we get that finalized soon.
Can I add two more items?
Please.
Okay, so one, I know it's getting longer, but maybe the approved new study skills program for sixth grade, because I know the parents read this in the Friday folder, and also maybe the National Honor Society, or the Junior National.
National Junior Honor Society. I had
Yes.
to read it a couple times
Thank
too.
you.
It was National Honor Society. What was the other one again?
The new sixth grade study skills program.
Thank you, Dr. Cullis. Dr. Forte, was there anything you wanted to talk about classroom space considerations?
Just that we're getting ready to start up that committee. We got to leave it on there so that maybe Dino finalizes it next meeting. Then we'll schedule a couple meetings over the summer.
Excellent. Anybody have anything else for the good of the cause?
I have a few things. The first question I had was for Dr. Cullis. The kindergarten enrollment, it's at 175. Typically, roughly on average, how many kids do we get from now till like September? Late enrollers or enrollees or stuff like that?
I mean, we definitely get them over the summer, but then we also have some students leave, even after they've registered. So I think we'll probably end somewhere between 180 and 185. That's my estimate.
Great, thank you. I also wanted to remind the board, I'm not sure where we stand, but the superintendent evaluations, I think that is something that needs to be completed, and I think the district board evaluation as well, right? I'm not sure when we're going to be reviewing that, but I've finished the superintendent, but I keep forgetting about the district board evaluation. So I'm going to make sure.
Thank you, Mr. Kim, for reminding on both of those, because I have not completed either one. So I would say, let's ensure, if anybody hasn't received that email, you should have, to complete those two evaluations, those self-evaluations, because that is, usually we'll talk about, well, the superintendent's a little bit different, but usually the board one's important for goal setting, because we'll typically talk about if we want to do a board goal, or kind of, that gives us an idea of where we are as a board. But let's make sure we have both of those done. If we can get those done by the next meeting, that should give us quite a few weeks, I think 3 weeks or so to get those done, so.
Is our next meeting June 12th?
I believe it is.
Yeah, and the self-eval needs to be done by then because that's the day that she goes
Yes.
over it.
Yep.
Or before then, right? So she has time to go over it as well, right?
Yeah, I would say shoot for June 1st, to give her some time to put it together.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Kim. Anybody have anything else for the good of the cause? Seeing none, we're going to move on to our second open public comment section. I'm going to open that at 8:11 p.m. I only see internal on the meeting, and I see no one coming forward to make any comments. So I am going to close our second open public comment section at 8:11 p.m. Steve, do we have a need for executive session?
Yes, do.
Or specifically anything, or should we just?
Personnel and student matters.
And negotiations.
Sounds good. Mr. Cass, would you mind moving us into executive?
I move into executive session in accordance with Section 8 of the Open Public Meetings Act. The purpose of this closed session will be to discuss personnel and student matters
And negotiations.
and negotiations. Minutes of the session will be made available to the public when the need for confidentiality no longer exists.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Cass and Mr. Kim. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? None? Any abstentions? None? We're in executive session as of 8:12 p.m. And we will not be making any voting motions after executive.